Quantum computing. You've heard the name, right? It's been this thing on the horizon for decades, always full of promise. But the big question is the hype finally about to catch up with reality? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Let's dig in and see where we really are on this crazy journey to a quantum future. And listen to how the experts talk about it. Take Ashley Montinaro, the CEO of Phasecraft. He calls it the telescope of the 21st century. Think about that for a second. This isn't just about a faster computer. No, it's a totally new way to see the universe, to zoom in on the molecular level, a view we've literally never had before. So that brings us to the big question, right? After all this time, all the money, all the headlines, is quantum computing actually ready for the real world? Is it ready to step out of the lab and start making a difference? Okay, to get to that answer, we've got to look at what's been happening lately. Because, a lot of people in the know are saying we've just hit a major turning point. It really kicked off back in late 2024. Google unveiled this Willow chip, and boom, investors got really excited. But 2025, wow. 2025 was the year everything changed. The actual building blocks of these machines, the qubits, you can think of them as the quantum version of a regular computer bit, they suddenly got a lot better. We're talking a huge leap in quality. And that breakthrough, it led to a massive 50% jump in investment. Money started pouring in. And this is where the whole game changes. According to people like Carmen Palacios-Beresquero from New Quantum, the problem isn't making good qubits anymore. We've kind of cracked that. We can make these high-quality little building blocks. The real challenge now, it's scale. It's about figuring out how to connect tons of them together to build something big enough to actually be useful. So you've got this huge challenge, and people are attacking it from all sides. It's like a big puzzle. You have Carmen's team at New Quantum, and they're working on the networking piece, how to link these processors up. Then you've got Steve Brierley over at Riverlane. His job is making sure the calculations are actually reliable, fixing the mistakes. And then there's Ashley Montinaro at Phasecraft, and his team is writing the software, the algorithms that will actually run on this new hardware. See? 3 totally different but absolutely essential pieces of the puzzle. But all this amazing work, it all comes down to one single massive roadblock. I mean, a hurdle so big it's almost hard to wrap your head around. They call it the trillion operation gap. Okay, so get this. Right now, today's best, most advanced quantum computers can do about 1,000 operations. Just 1,000. And then errors start creeping in and the whole calculation just falls apart. Now, don't get me wrong, 1,000 is impressive, but it's nowhere near enough. Because to do the really cool stuff, the things we dream about, like designing new drugs or brand new materials, we don't need 1,000 operations. We need 1 trillion, with a T, 1 trillion error-free operations. That's 1 billion times more. So we have to get from 1,000 all the way to 1 trillion. That's the gap we're talking about. It's huge. So you're probably wondering, how in the world do you cross a gap that big? Well, the answer has a name: quantum error correction. The best way to think about it is like a super fast, super smart supervisor that's constantly watching the qubits. The second it sees a tiny wobble or an error starting to form, it jumps in and fixes it in real time before it can mess up the whole calculation. This isn't just a nice to have, it's the absolute key to making any of this work. Okay, so the gap is massive, we get it. But the solutions people are coming up with, they're really clever. So let's look at how these experts are actually planning to build that bridge. Carmen Palacios-Beresquero has this great way of explaining it. Think about a data center. You don't build one single city-sized computer, right? That would be impossible. Instead, you take thousands of individual servers and you network them all together. Well, her company is doing the exact same thing for quantum. Instead of trying to build one ridiculously huge, perfect quantum chip, which is super hard, they're building the network cables to link up lots of smaller, high-quality processors into one big, powerful system. It's modular, it's scalable, it's smart. And this is where all those pieces of the puzzle we talked about snap together. You have New Quantum building the network, and by the way, their tech works with different kinds of processors, which is huge. Then you have Phasecraft designing smarter algorithms that need way less computing power to begin with. And finally, you have Riverlane building that all-important error correction engine that sits in the middle, making the hardware stable enough to actually run those smart algorithms. It's a three-pronged attack. So yeah, the tech challenge is insane. But why are so many brilliant people working so hard on it? Well, the motivation is just as massive. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar prize at the end of this. The amount of money on the table is just staggering. Like Ashley Montinaro said, just one application could be worth billions. I mean, just think about it. What's the value of being able to design the perfect new battery or a material that could transport electricity with zero waste? It's almost priceless. And Steve Brierley points out that the first big wins are likely going to come in areas like medicine and material science. We're talking about industries that need to understand how things work at the most fundamental molecular level. Imagine being able to design a new drug, atom by atom, perfectly targeted for a disease. Or creating a brand new material in a simulation before you ever make it in a lab. Stuff that's pure science fiction today. And you know what happens when the prize is that big, right? It's not just companies that get interested, it's entire countries. It sparks this global race for quantum supremacy. And right now, it's a fascinating matchup. You've got Europe, which has some of the best academic minds in the world and has been really smart about turning research into companies. But they have a huge challenge. How do they keep that talent and those companies from getting pulled over to the US, where there's just so much more money available for scaling up? Okay, but let's put aside the amazing new batteries and medicines for a minute. There is one application that's going to affect every single one of us, no matter who you are. And that is the coming encryption shockwave. Remember that magic number we talked about? A trillion operations? Well, here's the scary part. The moment a quantum computer hits that number, it will be powerful enough to crack the encryption that protects, well, pretty much everything. Your online banking, your private messages, government secrets, all of it. Now, I know that sounds absolutely terrifying, but here's the good news. This isn't going to sneak up on us. We can see this threat coming from a decade away. The early 2030s is the current estimate. And because we can see it, a massive global effort is already in full swing to get ready. You have groups like NIST in the US that are already creating new quantum-safe encryption standards. The whole world is basically starting the process of upgrading its digital locks. But that leaves us with one last, pretty chilling thought to chew on. Carmen Palacios-Beresquero puts it perfectly. Sure, the day the locks break might be a decade away. But think about this. If you have information today, say a company secret or a government file, that needs to stay safe for the next 10 years, well, someone could steal that encrypted data today and just wait. They can wait until they have a quantum computer to break it. So she asked the question, are you already too late? And suddenly, this future technology feels very, very present.